All right, so this has been a fun one. Always running across new things out here. Here's what we got. All right, so we got a huge deck. This is actually a room here, so they finished it, and you can tell because you see the underside right there. But as you move back here with support posts, and it's got a pretty good span, right? But see this retaining wall has got a couple of issues, namely these. So can you see how it has separated right there? Notice you got a footing there too. So there's pressure on the back side. Come over here, it gets a little bit worse. Also got a support post. So you've got a lot of pressure there as well. And if you look close, you can even see where it was attached, but it has since moved apart. So this is, that's a problem that is gonna continue to occur. Notice that it is typical along every footing. Even this one. See how it's just starting to form right down there? So you got some movement on that wall as a result of that. All right, so I walked out here, right? And the first thing I did, I walked to the kitchen. It's got the split foyer right there. So I walked into the kitchen and I walked onto the back deck, and I thought, it's just, you know, a back deck. Little did I know that it's actually, there's two layers of the deck and neither one of them are connected to each other. And so I immediately could feel it. And I was like, I don't like this at all. And then it looks like all the other houses, they do the same thing as this one. And as I'm looking at it, you can tell that they've sistered some boards in. I haven't fully inspected it yet, so as we get close, I'll start to take notice more. But that is just, if those are not cantilevered, right, if those joists right there don't run the length back into the house, that is a huge potential for a deck collapse. And as I can see from down here, there's no lag bolts at the ledger. There's no support posts underneath it. It's almost like it's just floating and attached to the side of the house, which would mean that nails are the only thing holding that in. That's pretty scary. Fence falling down. Huh. And perhaps that's the way they should have built the deck, something like that. A bit more elaborate, but you know, it's not going anywhere. All right, so I suspect that this house was more than likely flipped just because this is the kind of stuff that you see, although I can't confirm. But look at the way that the counter comes and meets the side right here of the door frame. And they have a little bit of caulk right here at the base, and that's about it. And look how absolutely flush this is. This walkway, this narrow entranceway, would not be suitable on modern construction, for example, because it doesn't meet the requirement. But you'll notice that the door frame has been cut right here, more than likely simply to allow the door to close. So when you take a step back, right, and you pull the door, look at this. How much closer can you possibly get before it hits that counter? I mean, just barely. And then beyond that, you still have it stuck at the top. So this is kind of like just a wedge that was put in here just to allow that to open. So that right there in and of itself, other than just being, you know, you have no leeway. If this door begins to shift at all in the future, it's going to jam right there. Other than just having that as a you know, potential problem, you just want to make sure that when you see stuff like that, you're looking at the craftsmanship of other things, because it's going to be indicative of probably a greater concern, right? Indicative of greater concern. So also stuff like this right here. Can you see around the shower drain? So essentially there's no caulk around that along the outer edges. My fear in a situation like this is that water is going to get underneath those tiles and it's going to break them up from the bottom side. And so you're going to have an issue to where your pan is compromised. And when your pan becomes compromised, it's typically a lot of money to fix, so you don't want to deal with that. We also had really low water pressure here. Initially, it took about 90 seconds for it to kick on and become steady. So things like that could be also problematic on a larger scale. It just depends on what we see at the other areas. And then you've got some issues which are just typical, like cracked windows, things like that. Overall, not really bad. Garage checked out. Wiring looked perfect. Brand new panel. HVAC is good, 2018. Water heater is good as well, all gas venting. So you should have a relatively low power bill here, except for the fact that these windows are archaic. Maybe replacing those things will do you some good. But so far, so good. We're going to see what else we can stumble upon. All right, so we are on house number 2 today here in Birmingham. And the first house had a couple of issues. That deck, the joist did run back all the way, so let me assure you. But it did have some rot on there as well, and a couple other issues. I'll probably explain some of those just to bring some clarity. Anyway, house number 2, and only about 20 minutes down the road, I'm in the crawl space here. Here is an issue that we see on a pretty frequent basis, but it's pretty critical. We got to make sure you get it fixed. Let me show you what it is. All right, so again, in the crawl space here, furnace over there, cast iron drain line. All right, so you got your gas, water heater right there. You follow this vent, boom, 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 boom. It slopes, but just barely. So you just want to make sure that's rising up like it should. But anyway, you see that right there? Yeah, so just how it starts to corrode over time. You don't want that to happen, because basically what will happen is, instead of following the rest of the vent up to vent out properly, those openings can allow carbon monoxide, eventually carbon monoxide, as the gas exhaust tries to vent outward, it'll come out here and just into this crawl space area, which will eventually soak up through the floorboards to the underside of the house. And that is no good.